dare I push the, no, I don't dare to push the full screen. Everything will break apart. Okay, to the point. Here's what I thought you probably want to go over and you have questions. I'll go over these. You can ask in the middle or in the end. And here we go. So first of all, I'm going to give a few words what this course is in general about. And then what we believe that actually the students need. So kind of starting with kind of a user-centric thing. But what do actually the target people need? And then I'm going to go over what is the point and objective of the whole coaching thing, where you come in, your role in this. And then a few words what this is not about. So just gotta trying our best to give you a good focus of what you have actually committed into. And then the schedule, and then a few words about what's the actual workload, effort required, and then the tool to help you and the student figure out what's going on. And then if there's still questions, then go over them. Okay, quickly about the course. It is called Societal Design Project. It's a course that starts Monday and ends end of November. And each of the student groups, they get a client and they work on a client project. But you will not be actually working with the client project as such. So, but it's good that you are aware that this is the context in it. And the whole point of this, that you are the personal coach of an individual student, is that they have this real world service design strategic project context. So that's kind of the background where they can try out new things and whatever you discuss in your few meetings. Good. But then, oops, hey, but now I can change easily any typos here. Fantastic. So what's the need for the coaching? Hanna, you're the closest we have for a student in this meeting, so you can say if I got it totally wrong. But I think a lot of our students who are young professionals in their mid-20s, they are kind of thinking about meaningful work and values and all that stuff. And I'm pretty sure all of us here are thinking similar things more or less. And this is really the point that we're having this coaching, is to help them think about these questions in the context of a real design project. So rather than having like a separate course for, what is meaning, what are values, let's talk about those things, like I said, in the background of a real project. And kind of one of the things I want to emphasize is that talking about values and meaning and all of that stuff is, in my view, actually very complex and difficult. But we shouldn't freeze. We should nevertheless start talking about them, because that's part of the whole thing, is to discussing about what is valuable and where does the meaning come from. So that's the need. And kind of, I really want to emphasize this part of it. Oh, I need to change the typo again. Is that we are still a design engineering course. So when we talk about stuff like meaning or meaningfulness or values, we want to be as concrete as possible. Because in my experience, often this goes into very fluffy stuff, very abstract things and nothing concrete. So where we need your help is that when you have these discussions and listen to these students, at what they are talking about and how do they approach this, always kind of gently push them into, can you give a concrete example? What does this mean in practice? Well, how does this actually change the way you work? How does this change perhaps the design you're working with, and so forth? So that's why it's kind of the coaching is meaningful work is the theme, to give a focus. And thanks for everybody here online who helped to find this focus during last spring and all that stuff. So like it says over there, is that the focus of the coaching is what does the student value in work? And once the kind of the discussions about value and what they find valuable, then I fully believe that helps them to understand the connections into what is meaningful for them when they do design engineering work. What else? And then, so each student gets a coach, one of you. Some of you take 2 students, but you work one-on-one. So, and your really role is to help them to find for themselves, to identify, start thinking about. You're kind of like a bouncing board or a sparring partner, whatever you want to call them. Somebody who's an outsider, somebody who's neutral, but means that they're not part of the client, not part of the teaching personnel. They're not your colleagues. So you're kind of outside, objective, adult professional who helps them to go through this thinking. And you're all from Accenture, Nitro, Solita, Vincit, and also Futurize. And well, there's a little note about there that each team will also have a coach about the client project. That's something for you to think about. But you're not them. They're different people. Good. And do you have any questions at this point? I'm next going to go kind of through what I believe, kind of giving you ideas and points about what is your work really about. Outi.
Yeah. One thing I had when you had there the question that linking or bridging the gap between the kind of the design and the meaningful. Does this mean that like in general or in this project that they are doing?
Well, yes, excellent question. I would say first, the project that they're doing, kind of asking them that, you're going to meet them 3 times. I'm going to get back to that. In the beginning, in the middle, in the end. And in the middle, you can kind of, what am I thinking is, you can go back and say, last time we met, you talked that this and this is valuable. Is that having any effect on the project you're working with? Is this having any effect in the way that you are working in this project? And then I believe that in the final 3rd meeting, you'd kind of start discussing the general. So, how does this affect in general? So yeah. I'm really a big believer of trying to keep this concrete, and having one real project helps in that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Outi. So a few words about what this coaching is about and what it is not about. So it's primarily about what the student values in work. In Finnish, arvostaa. And of course, just to remind you, you don't have to have any answers. But I'm kind of hoping that you all probably have good examples of, for me, this would be like this. So when you're having a discussion, just in an ordinary thing. But of course, the only answers that are the right answers are whatever the student, comes up with. So of course, to say the obvious, your main task is listening to them and asking them to be more clear, asking them to be more concrete, asking them to give examples. So something like, for example, somebody say, well, for me, it's really important that there's a universal healthcare in society. Well, fantastic. Can you be more specific? Can you give an example of that? And so forth and so forth. And like the last question in the slide is, how would that show in a concrete project? How do they imagine? Now in the first meeting where you're looking into the future, how do they imagine that this will actually show up in the way they work? So we're going to have a template to help you out, no worries there. And then on a more kind of vague, abstract level, it's really the objective is to create space and time for the student to sit down, have a real person, you, listening to them and asking questions. So kind of almost forcing the students to really think about these things. Because I'm not sure that how many, I don't know about you, but I don't, necessarily sit down and think about these things unless somebody really makes me. So just being there and listening, and that's half of the work we're asking you to do. Kind of like having a deadline. Nothing happens if you don't have a deadline. So you're the living deadline. Nah, I'm not sure that's a good metaphor. But of course, importantly in the middle, that you're helping the students to formulate, to put their thoughts into sentences, into words, into text, and so forth. And like I said, this is about having somebody, objective outside professional. Not a teacher like me who grades their stuff and they are trying their best to give the right answers or making a good impression. And few things that this is not about. Of course, we're not stopping you to go into this direction if it feels that this is important. But this is not really primarily about career mentoring, Sure, you can after your meeting say, continue the discussion and whatever. This is not about teaching specific skills. This is not primarily about teaching the design. And this is not primarily about solving the client's case. And this is not about, of course, like I said, giving ready answers. That these are the values that you should have. And kind of just to remind me, of course, this is not about you. This is about them. And just to make sure that this part of the course is not graded. So it gives them it gives you and the student a lot of freedom of that nobody's grading this. They do have to do this, and we're checking that they have actually done the homework, but nobody's grading this, which would be kind of funny when we talk about meaning and values. Anyway, you have the wrong values, you only get 3 out of 5. Maybe in some parts of the world, but not here in Finland. Here's the course schedule. Oh, did you have any questions before we go to the schedule? No questions. Okay, fun, we had to jump out. I just noticed the chat. Schedule. So here, maybe I can get this a bit bigger. There we go. So the course actually starts on Monday, and that's when we kind of introduce this whole meaningful value part. And then your first meeting is actually next week. So really, really hoping that we can all figure that out and schedule. And you're going to get, the student is going to be responsible for contacting you, hopefully already late afternoon, coming Monday, to find a time. And then as you can see in this graph, the green part over here is, that's kind of the project part of it. So this is kind of a wrapper around the project, the design project. And then you're going to meet in the middle, and then we're going to have the individual reflections in the end. And just as a curiosity, these are our clients this year, except that Vastly had to decline. Very dramatic to delete a company from that. Okay, this is probably more interest of you. So I really, really mark this in red. These are the coaching sessions we're asking you to do. You can do more coaching if you want, but this is how it's planned. And to let you know, next Monday, Hanna and myself, we're going to make the students actually start preparation work. So they will be already warmed up and they are familiar with the tool when they meet you. Those dates are over there. You're going to get the slides, so you can put those dates in the calendar as well. But you can see this actually goes pretty long into the future. Now, I estimated the effort need is about 5 hours. That's a little bit overestimating rather than underestimating. Half-hour kickoff now. This is what you're spending your time on. Then kind of hoping that you familiarize yourself with the simple tool. But if you kind of get it immediately, then you don't have to. And then you will have 3 times a 1-hour session with each student. So that's 3 hours. And then I'm kind of hoping we're going to have a similar meeting like this, but actually you talking more than me and me listening of what did you learn? How should we do this better? And I'm really, really actually interested in what did you get out of this? And how did you make the most of it for yourself? So like I said, you're going to get the students on Monday, Tuesday latest. They will be in touch with you. If they don't, then we're going to slap on a virtual ruler on their fingers. And they will, we're using Miro. Do you say Miro in English in Miro? I don't know. Is it Miro? Who knows? We're going to use that in this course. And the tool is going to be there eventually when Hanna gets it there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And there are the dates again, just to make sure everybody's crystal clear about them. And then the tool. Any questions before I show you the simple canvas that we're going to use?
On the previous slide, it mentioned that the meetings can be online. What is your recommendation whether we should be doing this physically or online? And do you have any recommendations for location?
Yep. Recommendation is based on university guidelines, which recommends online, unless the teaching requires face-to-face or physical presence. The lectures we're going to have online. That's what I decided with these guidelines. We're not going to stop you if both of you want to meet face-to-face, but this is a university context, so please do, of course, keep the distance and make sure that everybody is safe. So you can meet offline. And today I had a meeting, for example, with Hanna outdoors, and I think that's a pretty safe thing. Outdoors with a 2-meter distance. I think everybody's going to be okay with that. But online is kind of the default. If you want to go offline, go for it.
Okay,
but keep the safety. Thanks, that was a good question, Arttu. Good. Okay, about the tool. So it's going to be a simple canvas. I'm a big fan of canvases after creating a book full of them. So they're going to get this tool. I'm going to now show you it in more detail. What it says in the middle, but the whole point of the tool is that it has the whole question about values is divided into 4 categories. And the student and you are going to go through each of them. So here in the left-hand corner, we have what do you value in a workplace? Here's what you value in society. Here's what you value in teamwork, which is more like social interaction and in a social context, if this workplace is more like an organization, company culture context. And then finally, last but not least, what do they actually value in the final product, in the product or the service or whatever piece of design engineering they're doing. So I'm going to go through these now. We still have a few minutes. And here in the middle is this kind of disclaimer that be aware that this is actually a bit complex. And the biggest or the easiest mistake to make is to remain extremely abstract and fluffy. And for that, we have under each of these 4 categories a fluffiometer, where the student actually marks together with your sparring questions that how abstract versus concrete they think that their values are. And again, you don't have to be judgmental. It's really about them making an estimate themselves. But like it says here, the goal is to get something concrete out of this that actually guides and shapes the way they work. So during the fall, does it guide, does it shape the course project? And then after this course, how do they see that their values guide and shape them as professionals? So here again, zooming into this. So here in a workplace, what do they value? So the simple exercise is to discuss and talk with them that they choose, or not choose, but write down top three at this moment. These are not, of course, not definitive. They might change. Next week, they might have different, next month, next year. But at this moment, as you speak with them next week, what would they say are their top 3? And here in the left, it might be a bit, it's a little bit small and gray. But for each of these categories, I gave keywords just to help people to think that what this could be about. So now that we're talking about workplace, things like diversity, autonomy, creativity, purpose, accountability. And the students might go, even you might go and I might go, what do those words actually mean? Which is a good question. But the trick answer to that is, of course, is that what does the student mean by that? So these are, again, just really emphasize, there are no right or wrong answers. So if somebody writes that, okay, for me, it's really important that the workplace has accountability. Well, fantastic. What do you mean by it? Can you give an example? And so forth and so forth. And we're going to be asking the students to actually write, when they choose or write down their top 3, then explain each of them with a sentence or 2. That's hugely important, that they don't just write trust, self-realization, social impact. Done. Next exercise. But actually write down, what do you mean by them? And you can see the fluffiness here. than just marking across. I think these are still pretty fluffy, but I'll work on them. Again, it's not judgmental, but just to the self-estimation. So here in this corner, we have the societal values. A lot of things over here: human welfare, privacy, security, equality, cultural diversity, safety, prosperity, social sustainability. And these are just examples. If something is missing, then add them and discuss them. And then here in the lower corner, we have the teamwork values. Some of them are actually the same, a little bit different taste when you put into different context. Stuff like trust, togetherness, leadership, again, purpose, autonomy, friendship, openness. And I mean, feel free to add any words you think that might start the discussion. And then for the final product, or I call it here the delivery. So these are more like technical values. Take a piece of technology such as this pen. What values does it have, such as performance, brand, aesthetics, technical quality, safety, usability. So the whole point is to approach these, so help people to see that there are different values. And at least have these 4 different categories to split into. And then hopefully get people to think and on a path towards understanding what does meaningful work mean for them.
Should this template be approached more as a starter for a dialogue, or is this an output you want from this exercise?
Excellent question, thanks. Both, but in that order. So start the dialogue with this, but they do have to have an output. So why not use the template? So, and soon we're running out of time. Here's again the coaching, and I put some kind of questions at each of these coaching. Like I said, there's going to be 3 sessions: beginning, middle, end. And you can pretty much guess how it's going to go. So in the beginning, they're planning. In the middle, you're checking how's it going according to your plan. And the last coaching is really about reflection. Okay, what did you learn? What are you going to take now into your professional life out of this experience? So again, there's a lot of questions that these might help you out. And then just they're going to be starting this thinking already during the lecture, like I said. Good. Here's another version of the timeline. Excellent. Questions, comments?
I have a question.
Thank you.
Is it okay to give them homework if I would like them to prepare something for the next meeting? Or
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I also have a question. It sounds so interesting. Would it be possible to take part, or at least to watch the final presentations?
Oh, for the projects? Yeah, I think absolutely. Yeah, we can keep you informed.
Thanks.
Yeah, we don't have even any room restrictions now that we are going to be online. So just everyone, if you'd be interested, I think you're welcome.
And I think that in this context that we are meeting now, this is the first time we're doing this in this course. So we have been running this course as a service design course I've been running 5-6 years. I'm super interested how this goes. Because so like I said, coming Monday, they do this. And the next Monday, they meet the client and talk about the organization's societal values. And then only after that, they actually dig into the project. And I'm really interested to see, does this coaching that you are doing with us, how does it affect their understanding of how an individual design project relates to these abstract values? I don't know. I'm super interested. I'm so happy that you are helping us out.
I don't have any questions. Oh, did somebody want to say?
Yes.
Who
Nina
goes first?
here.
Okay, Nina first, then Juhis.
Okay, thanks. Actually, this is an extension to the previous question. I think the titles of the sessions look really, really interesting, as usually on your courses. Would it be possible to listen in on the lectures themselves if we have time and
maybe.
That would be super
I have nothing
interesting if
against
it's
it.
possible.
I'm more than happy to open the lectures to the audience, but I think we need to talk, Hanna, with you about it, because then having an audience, we want the students to be really interactive and ask questions. So the audience always changes that. But Nina, we'll get back to you on that.
Thanks.
Juhis.
Yeah, so I don't have a question, but I just want to comment that I think this is really, really cool. I wish we had something like this when I was trying to study. And I think like all in all, kind of talking about values in work life is something that like I started to think about in my 30s. So it's really nice that people have an opportunity to kind of think about that stuff before they go into work life.
True. And many of them already are. But for me, as a teacher, I think this is a muscle that you need to start practicing already at this stage.
Yeah.
Because if you start in your 30s or in your 40s, then you're like, oh, this is a bit sore. I can't do everything I wanted to do. Okay, one final slide. There's our contact information. Like the slide says, Hanna is best. So if you need, that's probably the best way to reach. But there's my phone number. That's also a very quick way to reach me if need be. Good. But what we're going to do, Hanna, am I right? We're going to make an email, pretty much an email list with all your names to keep you informed and all that.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll keep you updated for everything related to the course, and we'll tell you if it will be possible to get also you guys on board to the lectures.
Maybe one just for the students that now, since the coaching is next week in the 8th or 9th, maybe to somehow hint to them that that even though of course there's time to have that, it doesn't mean that the whole day is free. So so that there's kind of flexibility from their side also, that it could be that they need to also a little bit reschedule something on their day that to get it fit. Then on the October there's more maybe kind of variation of the times, so that it just I guess there is that, but just to kind of have the understanding that it could be also that there's quite limited unless we do it in the evening. But
yeah, very good point. Flexibility both ways, but yeah, I think well, Hanna, what do you think? But I think the students are actually excited to have you coach
yeah,
them,
at least I would be very excited.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
Hanna took this last year. We didn't have it. Sorry, Hanna.
But yeah, I think that they will understand that you're all volunteers here and you're doing this for them. So I bet that they will be flexible also.
And one more important thing, we're still short 5. So if you can, either one of you take 5 more students, that solves it, or if we get 5 coaches. So, keep that in mind. And when you tell your colleagues tomorrow at the virtual coffee machine about this, then I'm sure they all want to join. Okay, super, thanks.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Looking forward to it. Bye.